Hello and welcome to LearnFlash.com. In today's tip, I'm going to show you how to create a metallic logo in Flash, and we're just going to use the text tool to type in our words here. Alright, we want the fill to be dark, and we want a nice bold font here. I'm using ERAS Ultra, and we'll just type in logo for now. Alright, let's change our fill to black here so we can see it. Okay, now what we need to do is just break this down into raw shapes, because we're going to apply a gradient to this logo, and you can't apply a gradient to a text fill. Notice here, if we try to select our fill color, the gradients that are usually down here at the bottom are not there, like they are over here. These gradients are the ones I'm talking about. So you can't apply a gradient to a text fill, so we need to break this down, and we'll do that by hitting Control B once, and that will break it down into separate text fields for each letter, and Control B again, or Command B if you're using a Mac, once again to break it down into raw shapes. There we go. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to apply a fill here. So let's go to our color palette, make sure that you have the fill color selected here, and we're going to change type from solid to linear. We're going to create a linear gradient here. Notice I've added three separate colors here. The one on the left is a dark gray. You can double click on that and change the color. It's this first dark gray up here right under the black. The second one is a light gray, and then it fades back to that dark gray again. Alright, now what we want to do, you'll notice by default when we have all these selected, it has put a separate gradient fill in each one of these. We don't want that. We want this fill to span the entire logo. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to choose the fill tool, and you'll notice that there's an option here called lock fill. If we click on that, and then we need to go in and click on this whole thing with all of them selected, and it has applied that fill to the whole thing. But for some reason it has made that fill huge, so we need to go in here and make it smaller. So we're going to choose our gradient transform tool, click on that, and then click on our gradient, and here's the center of the gradient over here, this little circle on the left. So we're going to have to zoom out in order to see the whole thing, to see all the handles. There we go. Here's a handle over here. We're going to drag this in to make it smaller, and then we're going to drag the center of it over here over our text. Now we can zoom in a little more so we can see that. Alright, now we need to rotate this, so we'll rotate it so that it's kind of at an angle like so. Then we'll pull this down a little bit more. Alright, there we go. Alright, now we're going to make this pop out a little bit by giving a gradient stroke to it. So what we need to do here is we're going to use our stroke tool, and if you're using Flash Professional 8, you can apply a gradient to a stroke. If not, if you have an older version of Flash, you'll have to convert that stroke to a fill first. Well, let me show you how to do that. If you're using an older version of Flash, like Flash MX 2004 or older, then in order to do this, first of all, you will have to use the ink bottle tool to create your strokes. And once you have the ink bottle tool selected, let's do a 5 pixel stroke. You'll just click on all your letters here to create your strokes. And then you'll need to select all your strokes. So I'm going to select everything here, and then we'll just go to Modify, Shape, Convert Lines to Fills, and then it will convert every single one of these strokes into a fill, and then you'll be able to apply the gradient that way. Well, since we're using Flash Professional 8 here, we don't have to convert those lines to fills. We can just simply add a linear gradient to those lines. So with everything selected here, let's choose our stroke color in our color mixer panel, and we'll change type from solid to linear. And we're going to use that exact same gradient that we used earlier. However, we don't want it to span the entire thing. We want each one of these to be separate. So I'm going to go back to our fill tool. Let's deselect first of all of our fills. So I'm going to hold on to Shift and click on all of our fills so that only the strokes are selected. Okay, now we're going to go back to our paint bucket tool and deselect this lock fill. Alright, then we'll probably have to go in and redo each one of these. So I'm going to click again inside each one of these letters, and there we go. Each one of these strokes around the outside, you'll notice, has its own separate gradient. We no longer have it spanning the entire width of all of the strokes. Each stroke has its own separate gradient, and that gives it a really cool, almost kind of a 3D feel to your metallic logo. Now if you want to make it stand out a little bit more, you can convert this whole thing to a symbol by selecting it all, hitting F8. Convert this to a movie clip symbol, we'll just call it logo, and then we can give it a drop shadow. So with that logo selected, we'll go to filters, we'll add a drop shadow filter, and there we go. And that is a quick and easy way to create a metallic logo using Flash. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next tip.